Welcome to the 4:30 afternoon edition of Show Up Central Oregon. Yeah, it's Friday, and I think I entered this with Sherry. Sometimes we don't know what day it is these days, and today is Friday. It's a day ending in Y, as we always call. Joining me, I'm fortunate today, Jon Bullock. Jon is the I'm sorry, Jon, executive director. I'm sorry, of
Yes.
Redmond Proficiency Academy. I just typed it in and then I just completely forgot it. Jon, I've known Jon for quite a while. He was a speaker at TEDx Bend, and I'm fortunate to have him. He's been quite a leader in education over the years, and so it's great to talk to him about what's going on in education, how kids are feeling these days too, to a large degree. I know when we came on, Jon, you said there's some new guidance as far as education goes. What does that look like from the state right now?
Well, the Oregon Department of Education came out earlier this week with guidance for graduation for seniors. That was a big topic when the decision was to go into a school closure. And then, of course, the biggest news of that, though, however, is that schools are closed through the end of the school year. And so ODE released guidance for seniors so that we can get them graduated. And so schools across the region and across the state are busy right now evaluating students' grades and transcripts so that we can help make decisions about who's ready to graduate and who needs a little bit more help to get across the finish line.
Yeah, what was that guidance? I know I did hear something about that, but what can for those people that haven't heard, what exactly does that guidance look like?
Well, essentially, the state of Oregon said that for seniors who were on track to graduate when the school closed down, that they would be able to graduate based upon the work that they'd accomplished. So what we're doing is we're taking student performance as of March 13th, which is midway through our semester, and for our seniors, awarding them pass or no pass credit based upon their performance up to that point. And then those credits will then go towards graduation. Once we get all the grades in, we'll evaluate whether or not they met the requirements for graduation. If they did, they will be done with school. If they didn't, then we have from Monday through the end of August to help them demonstrate that proficiency or recover those credits in some cases so that students can graduate this spring. So the hope is that every student who is eligible to graduate will have that opportunity to do so.
And what's the general consensus from a lot of these seniors, at least with that? And then we'll get about the emotional thing here. But are they happy to be like, oh well, I had short timers anyways, senioritis? I mean, or hey, I don't have to. I'm good at this point in time.
I think it's a completely mixed bag. I mean, for some students, school is their place, right? It's where they get their fulfillment, and it's where they see their friends and they interact with adults who care about them deeply. And for those students, missing school and not being able to finish up in person is really difficult. For other students who were ready to move on to the next step already, it's just a formality, and away we go. So there's wide and varied responses to the credits. I think most importantly, people feel like there's a sense of certainty now about how it's going to work. Teachers, just like all people, are creatures of habits, as are our students. And when you change things up, there's a lot of trepidation about how is this going to work and what's it going to look like. And so now that we have guidance and we have plans in place, we can work to execute those plans and get people to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking to that a little bit, Jon, I think there's a lot of people don't realize that a lot of teachers, the kids are their kids, and they're not going to be able to see these kids now till the end of the year. And I actually I got a little choked up about that when that happened. But in your dealing with these kids and these teachers, can you talk a little bit about what that blow has been for them also?
Certainly, my heart breaks for our kids and for our staff and for our community, because schools are such an important part of the community. They provide so many services to our students and families, and they provide a place of connection for teachers and students and families. So my heart breaks for the seniors who are going to miss out on the culmination of their K-12 career, and my heart breaks for those students who are in housing insecurity and food insecurity situation, and my heart breaks for teachers. For example, teachers who are retiring this year, who aren't going to be able to experience what that's like to walk out of school on that very last day. There's a lot of heartache and a lot of grief right now with the closure of schools. And I think we have to give everybody grace and let them process that. Everybody's going to process that grief in their own way. And it's okay to not be okay with it. And it's also okay to emerge from it with more wisdom and more patience and more compassion. But everybody is suffering through this. And I think the thing that touches me the most is knowing how deeply our educators care about their kids. I mean, I think the thing I hear the most from teachers right now is how much they want to see their kids. I mean, for some of our students, it is a hug or a high five or a handshake or a fist bump that gets them through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And for teachers not to be able to do that, and for students not to receive that, it's heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a not only for the kids, but I think that's a good point as far as some of these teachers that might be retiring. I mean, they obviously thought, okay, this is going to be a great year. I can just go out and and now it's like, whoa, okay, this is going to be interesting. Let's talk now, I guess, a little bit about what that graduation looks like. Obviously, there was some guidance going on, but, this is so, I guess, anticlimactic, I guess, for so many of these. It seems like it's such a rite of passage that they're not going to have. Do you think there's some way to honor these seniors in a better way? What's your feelings, in working in education, and how we can, as family members or a community, better honor these kids that now don't have that rite of passage, that ceremony?
Yeah, I think the loss of graduation ceremonies is going to hit people hard because it's often a time where families come together, and for some families, it's a once in a lifetime experience, and that loss is going to be difficult for folks. Every spring, when our seniors graduate, I speak to them about how this is all about them and not at all about them. And what I mean by that is that, yes, they are going to get their moment in the sun. They're going to get that one moment in their life where all the spotlights are on them and people are clapping and cheering for them. And that's a big deal. But it's also that moment where they can look out into the crowd and all of the people who helped them along the way, their parents, their preschool teacher, their elementary school teachers, their bus drivers, their custodians, the teachers they had in high school and middle school, all of those people that are there that supported them. It's their event too. And that for our seniors, while they're going to miss out on that graduation and that's going to be painful, it's also going to be painful for the other folks. And so we don't have our plan fully vetted yet, and we're working on some options. The thing I know is we're going to get kids caps and gowns, and we're going to get them diplomas and diploma covers, and we're going to encourage them to celebrate with their family in ways that work for them, and to take all of the pictures and share all of the photos. And also know that while it's not the memory that they thought they'd have, it's certainly going to be a memory that will stick with them for a long period of time. Yeah. And I think across the country, there are going to be creative solutions, but really it's got to be school by school, community by community. And ultimately, though, knowing that you did a job well done, knowing that people care about you, and being able to be surrounded by your family is really important. And we're going to encourage folks to do that in whatever way works for them.
How does this? I just had this question, John. How does this look for going into college? I mean, this is also sort of that time that you're making those final decisions, or and so have, from a higher ed standpoint, maybe you can help me understand how this relates to now then going to be a freshman in college, this fall. How does that look then for these seniors that are graduating?
So Oregon's universities have been engaged in the conversations with the Oregon Department of Education. They've done that through the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. And so they've been a part of all the discussions around how diplomas will be awarded and graduates will be presented. And so the state of Oregon decided not to reduce its graduation requirements. The graduation requirements are the same in terms of the number of credits. And so universities across the state are accepting that as is. So if you were accepted to a university before this, that acceptance still stands. If you were accepted contingent upon earning a high school diploma, this high school diploma will represent that and your admission will still stand. We have to keep in mind that everybody is in this. Everybody across the country and across the world is involved in this. Mm-hmm. And so the impacts are spread out across the globe, and everybody is working to find a way to make sure our students aren't negatively impacted by things they can't control. And so I believe the universities are doing a great job of ensuring that students who've already been admitted will retain that admission, and students who are not yet admitted will receive that once they get their diploma.
I'm sure you've had conversations with some of these seniors and other people. What's that general mood been for them? I'm sure I'm like you said earlier, I'm probably sure it's mixed on some of them, but What's the general consensus by a lot of these kids that you've been speaking with?
I think anxiety and trepidation rules the day. I mean, this is the time of year for seniors when they're starting to realize that the end is near, that what they've known for 12 or 13 years is coming to a conclusion, and the next steps are right there. You can see them and feel them and taste them. And so that naturally comes with some anxiety and trepidation. And so this added uncertainty, I think, has heightened that for students. And so we have students, for example, who will receive notice that they have earned their graduation requirements, but they're still going to keep pursuing their courses because they've got AP tests in late May and early June that they want to take, because those tests will help them in college, and those tests might get them college credits or additional scholarship money. And so it is varied, but I think if there's a consistent theme, there's just trepidation about what the future holds. And I think that's consistent, though, across all of us. Like, I hear people all the time, whether it's teachers or people in the community, ask, how long are we going to stay in our houses? How are things going to work when we're able to walk out of our houses? And when we think about our young people, add into their anxiety this idea that they're supposed to go to school but do it at home and do it remotely, and maybe some of it will be on the computer and some of it won't be. And it causes a lot of, I think I've said it a million times, but it causes a lot of anxiety for folks. And we have to just be kind and compassionate and recognize that everybody's going through this and they're going to process it in their own way. And our job as schools is to be that source of strength and compassion in students and families' lives. We need to be something they can count on. We need to be something that's there when they're ready. And we need to focus on building connections. We need to focus on making sure students are taken care of. We don't need to focus right now on assessments and assignments. We need to focus on care and compassion.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You'll get a kick. I saw somebody posted on Facebook that they're hiring. It was a joke, but they're hiring their child out as an IT person because they're juggling 4 Zoom rooms across 3 different devices across, and that is the reality. I mean, like you're talking about, that compassion should be coming through because it's a real difficult learning experience, I would imagine, for a lot of these kids right now too.
Yeah, it's a radical change for the kids. It's a radical change for the teachers, and certainly for the families too. And we just have to give each other a break on it. We need to know that this isn't school as usual. It's not online school. It's not homeschooling. It's, at some level, it's crisis schooling, right? We're in the middle of a global pandemic and we're all asked to stay home, and we're trying to find the best way that we can provide care for our students and connect with our students and be compassionate, and then focus on a continuity of learning. But all of us have to realize that it's going to change day by day, person by person. And so we've got to look at it individually and respect where people are and honor their current experience, and just build for them a place where there's consistency, that they know we're always going to be here, that they can always connect with us, and that we'll always make sure we put their best interests first. And I think that's what people got into education for, frankly, is to connect with students. Nobody got into education, I don't think, because they would like to give out tests. They did it because they love kids and they love teaching subject matter. And while our connection with kids will change and how we deliver the subject matter will change, right now is a time where educators are going to shine, because what it comes down to, what everything in life comes down to, is relationships. And teachers are going to build and maintain and care for those relationships with our students. And that's something that they can have as a consistent part of their lives through this entire crisis.
I think what you said, crisis education, I think that's a good way to look at this right now, because it's not, I mean, my kids are much older, but the reality is, right now it's not, most adults are not, unless we're teachers, are not equipped to teach our kids. That's what we hope that we have these teachers in our lives for. And I think that what you just said is incredibly important, to recognize that we are in a crisis education moment, and that kids are not necessarily going to handle the same thing, because they are, like you were saying too, is that they are so conditioned that this is what I do, this is what I get. I go to school, and these teachers connect with me on an emotional level. They become part of my family, and now that part of my family is now gone. And I think that's a really important part of this whole conversation and discussion, John. And I thank you for bringing that up and bringing that into the conversation, because the collective, we have to realize that these kids are not, they're they are not going to be getting the same level, but that's okay, because we as a society, we as a world, are in a totally different spot. And I think that's extremely important to realize. What is that? I mean, obviously we're not too worried about it, but what does that continuity of education look like going into next year? I mean, obviously you've been thinking about that as an administrator, and okay, obviously when we get through this, what do we do on the other side?
Well, I think when we're doing education right, we are meeting kids right where they are. We're figuring out what it is they know and can do and can demonstrate, and then we're building on that. So we take a strength-based approach where we say, what do we know? What can we do? And now how do we build to our goals? And so for us, that's meant we've narrowed the focus of our curriculum for this distance learning for all period, where we've got specific learning targets for students to help guide them through that. And when students come back in the fall, we're going to pick up wherever it is they are in their learning. And that'll be a challenge. And some students will have thrived in this process, and others will have had dramatic slides. But at the end of the day, we're going to take students where they are and get them to where they need to be. To me, education is constantly about redefining the trajectory, figuring out what the target is, building a plan for that target, and then readjusting every time you get new information. All we can do in education and in life, frankly, and particularly in crisis, is take the best information we have today to build the best plan for tomorrow that gets us closest to our goals, and know that tomorrow we're going to get new information on which we can build a better plan. And so as educators look forward to what it looks like in the fall, it'll be different then too, but it'll be what we do. And it's what we're trained to do, and what we love to do is say, what do you know and where do you want to go? And let me help you get there. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be a time when educators shine and really re-demonstrate to our community the value that our public education system has for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you knew, I don't know that I've told you, both of my parents were Ben LaPine School District teachers.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time for me to just be like, I knew what my life looked like. And so now, to hear that these, and that's probably why it hit me really hard this last week, was because I know both of my parents were actively invested in their, students' lives. And so now they just basically, they're not, today it's not there. So, so it's interesting. Is there anything else, John, that you would like to add? I mean, just about what we're going through and how we can, make sure that we're leaning into our kids and helping them through these times?
Yeah, I think one of the things, if I could talk to every parent in our region, I would just say, you don't have to be perfect at this, and to give yourself a break and give yourself grace in this. And to all of our students, I'd say the same thing. And to all our teachers, I'd say the same thing. We don't have to get this right on day one. In fact, we don't have to get it right on day 30 or day 60. What we have to do is put forth our best effort to be our best self, whatever that looks like in that day, and then move forward with the intention of trying to take care of our kids. And we know that basic needs are primary. We need to make sure that our children, our families have food and shelter and healthcare. And then we need to know that they're safe and that they feel secure. And then we can focus on learning. That's the way it works every day. It's just heightened now because that's not happening in one location. It's happening in thousands and thousands of locations across our region. And I think everybody just needs to remember to take a deep breath and know that it's going to be okay. And if it doesn't work out on day 1 or day 2 or day 7, it's still okay, because everybody's in this trying to do the best they can for kids. And if we put kids at the center of our thinking, and if we put their care at the center of what we're trying to do, I think we're going to come out of this okay. And I think we'll come out stronger and better, but we have to do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, John, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
This was a great conversation, and we'll have you back again. I mean, obviously, we're not. Unfortunately, this is not going away anytime soon. So, if something comes up and you're kind of like, hey, this is what I'd like to talk about, just let me know, and we can have this conversation, because this is an issue that I know there's a lot of parents and a lot of teachers out there that they're mourning the next couple of months. So I again I appreciate you, Jon, coming in. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for all you're doing. We appreciate being able to watch you and stay connected to people.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
You're welcome, Jon. Yeah, and so I'm just going to do a quick sign off. I'll probably come on later tonight, maybe do a kind of I have an idea. But you guys, thanks. Appreciate it. So remember to show up for Central Oregon.